Elon Musk makes shocking announcement to millionaire black homeless man and Donald Trump. The lights dimmed suddenly. A heavy silence dropped like a curtain over the huge hall. Then, from the dark, a voice cut through, sharp, electric, impossible to ignore. "Tonight," Elon Musk boomed, "we rewrite the future." The crowd gasped, cameras flashed wildly, but nobody was ready for what came next. On one side stood James Harrington, the tech mogul with a gold watch that gleamed under the spotlights. His sharp suit did nothing to hide the weariness behind his eyes. James felt like a ghost floating through his own life, with money pouring in but a hollow ache gnawing at him. Luxury hadn't made him happy. It had chained him to secrets he wanted to forget. Tonight, he was here for something more, or so he hoped. Across the room, in shadows but impossible to miss, Marcus Johnson clutched a battered, worn jacket tighter around his thin frame. The scrapes on his hands, the stubble on his jaw, the tired weight dragging his shoulders. He looked like a man swallowed by the cold city streets, a homeless veteran trying desperately to claw his way back. But something kept pulling him forward, a vague whisper of hope that maybe this event, this auction, could be his last chance at redemption. And then, heart-stopping, there was Thomas Reed, the former president, controversial and stubborn, his stare icy and calculating, the kind of man who'd once ruled nations but now needed that power back more than air. His smile was a tight, thin slash, hiding years of betrayal and fight. Rumors whispered that he was tangled in a conspiracy so deep it could ruin him for good. Elon's voice cracked through the tension again. "This platform, born from the mind of Alex Mercer, will end poverty worldwide. Not someday, now!" The crowd leaned in, breath caught, waiting for the next bombshell. Suddenly, Marcus's fingers trembled. His eyes darted to Thomas. A long-buried memory slammed him in the chest. A secret link neither had wanted revealed. It hit so hard, he almost doubled over. Why was the man before him, the ex-president, so closely tied to the darkest days of his past? James felt his throat tighten. The legacy he built, the tech empire, the lies hidden behind skyscrapers, was heavier than ever. This auction wasn't just a chance to buy into a dream. It was a reckoning. A hush shattered by the sharp crack of glass behind the stage made everyone jump. Whispers multiplied, rumors flying. A leak? A threat? The glamorous scene fractured just before the show's climax. Who would bend? Who would break? Who would stand tall when everything fell apart? As they moved closer to the auction block, a deeper truth began to surface. One that promised salvation, but demanded a price unbearable. And just when they thought they understood the path, the real nature of the auction emerged. A wild storm of betrayal and impossible choices that could ignite chaos across the globe. The question hung thick in the air. What would they sacrifice to change the world? And who would be left behind in the ashes of their dreams? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Ha ha! Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The tension swelled thick in the air, a pressure everyone felt but couldn't name. The lights flickered, cold and alive, casting dramatic shadows on the faces around the room. Marcus's breath quickened. He could feel the weight of unspoken histories hanging between him and Thomas, taut as a tightrope. Then an ear-splitting crash shattered the silence. It was loud, jarring, like the world cracked open. The crowd recoiled, eyes wide as a massive chandelier descended from the ceiling, shattering against the floor. Glass rained down like deadly rain, the fragments glittering with a terrifying beauty. Panic surged through the hall. People stumbled, screams echoing. James instinctively stepped back, his heart racing. He glanced at Marcus, who remained motionless, staring at the chaos unfolding before him, haunted by an unmistakable recognition. But amidst the uproar, something even more shocking happened. It was a blur, a figure darting across the stage. A man, disheveled but determined, burst into view, his identity hidden by the strange lighting. A gasp swept through the room as he shouted, "This auction is a lie!" Everyone froze. The uproar softened, uncertainty rippling through the crowd. ELON, even under the blinding spotlight, seemed to lose some of his bravado. "Who are you?" he demanded, a tremor in his voice. The mysterious figure halted, chest heaving, and pulled a mask off, revealing a familiar face. Alex Mercer, the auction's creator, once a shadow in the tech world, now standing bravely before everyone. Marcus's eyes widened in disbelief. He remembered Alex from years ago, a brilliant innovator with dreams that now felt tainted by betrayal. "I'm here to expose the truth," Alex declared, fire glinting in his eyes. "You think this auction will end poverty? No. This is a trap. ELON is selling a fantasy while burying secrets that could destroy us all." The crowd gasped. James felt a shudder move through him. Had he just been collateral damage in a game far more significant than he realized? An echo dimmed the noise around him. The legacy he'd built now surfacing like a nightmare. What secrets? Someone dared to ask. Alex stepped forward, voice rising above the whispers. "You know the hack that brought government sites to their knees. It was orchestrated to create chaos, to move power from the streets to the rich. And it all leads back to you, James. All of it." James's breath caught, his heart racing as panic turned to horror. The auction was a mechanism, a cover for something deeper. Something that could ignite a conflict he had no power to contain. Thomas shifted, a flicker of anger in his gaze. "You have no proof," he snapped, but his voice lacked conviction. "You think I don't?" Alex shot back, pulling a small memory card from his pocket, waving it like a holy grail. "This will show you the way. The collusion, the deals made behind closed doors. We've been puppets, all of us." Gasps and murmurs cascaded around the hall. Eyes shifted, uncertain, questioning who was friend or foe. The stakes had just risen higher than anyone had imagined, a tangled web of betrayal tightening around them. The energy shifted. Questions crackled in the air. The trio, Marcus, James, and Thomas, stood on the precipice of a truth that could alter everything they thought they understood. And before anyone could grasp what it would mean, the lights went out completely. A chilling silence fell over the room. Then came the sound, a deafening beep, an alarm, an alert, the beginning of something terrible. The question hung, unanswered and agonizing. What had they unleashed? The tension in the hall twisted into something sharper, more palpable, as the lights flickered overhead. People shifted uneasily. Murmurs rippled like a wave through the crowd. Elon stepped up, his face a mask of intent. "Let's begin," he declared, excitement electrifying the air. Suddenly, Marcus's hand trembled, his gut churning. He couldn't shake that connection with the former president. Why did everything feel intertwined? It was like two old tracks rejoining, a dark train of thought that wouldn't let go. Before he could process it, the atmosphere shattered like glass. An ear-splitting bang erupted from the back of the hall. Everyone whirled around, eyes wide, hearts racing. A cloud of smoke spiraled towards the ceiling, and chaos tipped into a frantic dash. "Get down!" someone screamed, panic slicing through the crowd. James ducked behind a nearby podium, his face drained of color. Alongside him, the reality of the situation hit Marcus like a punch. This wasn't just a failed auction anymore. They were in danger. Through the haze, he spotted Thomas, ducking and weaving, but not in a bid for safety. No, he was headed towards the source of the commotion. "What are you doing?" Marcus shouted, but his voice got swallowed by the panic. Amid the chaos, a figure emerged, a man who seemed out of place in this luxurious crowd, his clothes tattered, his presence almost ghost-like. He moved with purpose, eyes blazing with an intensity that radiated raw emotion. Then he pulled something from his coat. A notebook? No, it was something else. With a flick, he unveiled a device that glowed ominously. The realization crashed into Marcus harder than the snoke. That was not just a gadget. It was a detonator. "Marcus, help!" James's voice broke the haze. He scrambled, but what could he do? He felt paralyzed. Too many thoughts clashed in his head. The cost of fortune? The weight of truth? Just then, Thomas snapped at the man, voice sharp. "You can't do this! You don't understand the power you're holding!" But the man just sneered, his face twisting into a mask of pain and fury, clearly knowing all too well the kind of power he wielded. "Power? You think I want power?" he howled. "You took everything from me. This is for every person you've destroyed." Every eye in the hall turned toward him, tension pulsing. Whispers spiraled, fingers pointed. The reality struck like lightning. This wasn't just an unfortunate distraction from an auction. It was a reckoning. James caught Marcus's eye, and there was an unspoken understanding. That man, that agent of chaos, could he connect the threads? What is the hidden truth? Then came another explosion. Blinding light. The walls shook. The crowd screamed, shoving against one another, like tide rushing to reclaim the shore. Marcus's heart thumped erratically, thunderous in his ears. "Move!" Elon's voice barked, grounding them in clarity amidst the madness. But Marcus didn't move. He couldn't shake that connection with Thomas. They were all intertwined in a web now, secrets threading them together in a way none could have expected. As the smoke began to clear, the impact settled in. Beneath the chaos, hope flickered weakly. Who was the man with the detonator? What hidden truths would he unearth? Still, amidst the devastation loomed an unyielding question. Would any of them emerge unchanged? And as shadows lurked longer, one undeniable fact remained. This was only the beginning. The chaos reached a fever pitch, the crowd wailing and scrambling for safety. Marcus felt his heart thud like a drum, a deep, panic rhythm that echoed in his ears. He wanted to move, to help, yet the scene before him wrapped him in a blanket of fear. The man on stage with the detonator held the crowd captive, every eye glued to the trembling hand that gripped his weapon like it was the last memory of hope. "Everyone, step back!" Elon shouted, his voice slicing through the noise, but it sounded weak amid the pandemonium. Thomas pushed forward, eyes blazing with something. Anger? Desperation? No one could tell. "You have no idea what you're doing," he yelled at the man, whose wild gaze darted around, seeking understanding or purpose. But before anyone could react, an explosion hit! Not of sound, but something else. The lights flickered and vanished, plunging them into suffocating darkness. A gasp swept through the hall. Bodies pressed close. Panicked breaths filled the air. Suddenly, a soft glow emerged, not from the stage, but from somewhere among them, rising like a phoenix from the ashes of fear. As the crowd squinted, trying to make sense of it, Marcus saw it. A luminous figure, wrapped in a hood, face obscured. "Enough!" The figure called, voice fierce, fiery. "You are all players in a game you don't understand." The room fell silent. It was as if the very air had been sucked out. Thomas froze, hunger for control palpable. James felt a trickle of cold dread creep down his spine. "Who are you?" the former president demanded, eyes narrowing into slits. The figure stepped closer, a sense of purpose in their stride. "I'm the architect of your realities." They lifted their head, and the hall gasped as the hood fell off, revealing a familiar face. Alex Mercer, but not the Alex they remembered. This Alex looked older, scarred by time and truth, eyes piercing into each of them with a knowing glance. Pandemonium erupted again, everyone clamoring to comprehend. You're alive? We trusted you." That sentence felt inadequate, a balloon filled with too much air. The crowd began to push in closer, every person straining to catch a glimpse of the rekindled face of hope. Or was it despair? "Trusted?" Alex threw his hands up. "I held the blueprint for freedom, but you all wanted to sell it. Elon and Thomas, you stand at the helm of an empire built on deception. The auction is a ruse, a way to hide the truth from those who need it most." The air electrified with shock. Murmurs turned to shouts. "Lies!" "This can't be true," someone yelled. "He's just bitter." But there was no denying the truth in Alex's words, a raw edge that cut through the chaos. And then, in a stunning twist, Alex pulled a small device from his pocket, holding it aloft. "I'm not just here to expose the lies. This device will end it all." The glow flickered, anticipation mounting. "It will reveal the buried secrets of every single person in this room, every deal, every betrayal." The silence was suffocating, each soul frozen in fear. What did that mean? Who would survive the unveiling? What truth would pierce the hearts of men raised on deception? "Stop! You have to stop!" James cried, reaching for Alex, desperation spilling from his eyes. But in that moment, it was too late. The device beeped, its lights pulsing in rhythm with Marcus's racing heart. Was this the end? Or the beginning? And as the crowd held their breath, one question loomed larger than all others. Once the truth was revealed, would they ever be able to return to who they once were? The tension in the air thickened. Everyone's breath held tight as Elon Musk's declaration hung like a storm cloud, ready to burst. A sense of urgency pulsed through the room. Just as the auction was about to commence, a loud bang erupted from the back of the hall, a sound that rang out like a gunshot. Everyone turned. The crowd shifted, uncertainty creeping in. Marcus's heart raced. Was it a threat? A desperate cry for help? The room buzzed with fear. Whispers slithered through the audience, faces pale, eyes wide. And then it happened. A figure broke through the crowd, a woman. Her eyes aflame with purpose. She was not just any woman. She was Alex Mercer's ex-business partner, the one everyone thought had vanished years ago, presumed dead. Sarah Blake. The name washed over everyone like icicles down the spine. You don't understand! This technology, it's not for saving lives. It's for controlling them, she shouted, her voice piercing through the chaos. The shockwaves hit Marcus like a freight train. He couldn't believe it. That man, standing next to the mysterious machine, was his old friend's murderer, the one who tore his life apart. James's expression morphed from confident billionaire to a man cornered. Sarah, you can't just barge in here. You don't know what you're doing. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing, she shot back, her hands trembling but steady. You made a deal with the devil. This isn't a game. It's a trap. I lost everything because of you. I won't let you do this. A wave of gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus's mind raced, trying to piece together the devastation locked in her words, the nuances buried beneath the surface. She was right. The stakes were higher than even he realized. Thomas Reed stepped forward, his political bravado fading. You're lying, Tho. This was supposed to be the future we dreamed of. Her laughter cut through the tension like knives. You think you can control it, but you won't. You never could. The anger, the passion. She was a force undisputed, turning the room into a battlefield of ideologies. Then the ground shook beneath them. The lights flickered overhead. An actual tremor? Gasps fed into a rising tide of panic. Sound equipment short-circuited, and screens began to tear through the hall. In that moment, everything escalated. Papers flew into the air. The auction podium toppled over. James fell back, eyes wide as he stared at the shaking ground. The air turned electric, a sign of something dark beyond their understanding. Marcus's chest constricted as he caught a glimpse of Sarah's face, a mixture of grief, fury, and defiance. You think you can change the world? You don't even know what you're doing! She screamed, and for an instant, their eyes locked. An unbreakable connection formed. Secrets began to swirl between them, the threads of fate fraying at the edges. Everyone, listen to her! Marcus shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. But would they? Could they? Amid the horror, a breathtaking realization took shape. They weren't just victims of a corporate agenda. They were the pieces in a much larger game, one that Alex Mercer had set in motion long before any of them stepped foot in this hall. The crowd erupted into chaos, everyone scrambling. But Marcus stood anchored, caught in a web of revelation. What had he stumbled into? And more importantly, what had they all unleashed? The night was far from over. A reckoning was coming, and no one would be able to hide. The weight of the moment hung heavy, and as Musk's words settled, anticipation crackled in the air. James felt dizzy, caught between the rising tension and the relentless screams of his thoughts. This was his chance to save himself from the emptiness gnawing at him. Yet doubts twisted his insides. Marcus's heart raced, his worn jacket a barrier against the chill. But something else surged, an old defiance mixed with fear. He recalled nights haunted by shadows of his past, the kind of shadows that silently crept up every time he closed his eyes. And now, staring at Thomas Reed, the former president, he felt those shadows threatening to swallow him whole. Suddenly, the heavy silence shattered. A loud crash echoed from behind the stage, followed by frenzied gasps from the crowd. The flickering lights struggled to find stability, casting chaotic shadows across faces frozen in shock. James whirled around to see a figure stumble out, a masked intruder, eyes wild and frantic. "What you're about to do," the figure screamed, "will destroy everything." A hushed murmur rippled through the audience, a wave of confusion washing over them. Musk stepped back, disbelief coloring his expression. "Who are you? Security!" he roared. But the masked figure took another bold step forward, revealing a flash of a very familiar gold watch. James's heart raced as recognition struck him like a punch to the gut. It was his watch. Same model, same tarnished gold. "No, it can't be," he whispered under his breath, panic nesting in his brain. "James Harrington!" The masked figure spat, tearing off the mask with a swift movement. All the air rushed out of the room as gasps turned to silence. A young woman, wide-eyed and fierce, emerged. "Your secrets haunt us all. You don't get to decide who rises and who falls." Marcus staggered back, the walls around him closing in. This wasn't just chaos. It was a reckoning, a reckless unveiling of hidden ties. He recognized her too. Amy, a childhood friend he thought had vanished. The streets had claimed her, just like they almost claimed him. "Why? How could you? You were supposed to be safe!" Marcus felt the heat of betrayal spike through him. But Amy's eyes, filled with fury and sorrow, pierced into him. "Safe? Your world is built on our suffering, Marcus." The crowd twitched, whispers curling like smoke as the truth crackled in the air. James felt his heart pounding louder now, dread pooling in his stomach. He remembered late-night deals, partnerships with less than reputable figures, and the trail of destruction he'd ignored in his hunt for success. "Wait! This isn't what you think!" he called out. But his words felt flimsy, lost in the storm of unfolding chaos. "Your empire rests on the backs of others." Amy lunged forward, her anger wrapping around them like a vice. "And you just want to pretend it's a world-changing dream? Well, let's see how you really feel when those you're trying to save are the ones coming for you." In that moment, reality split apart, secrets bared, bonds shattered. The past came crawling back, and the crowd leaned in, breaths held, as a petrified stillness settled once more. James looked at Thomas, their gazes locking. Two men entwined in the same web of lies. "This ends tonight," Thomas said, his voice steady, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "What will you sacrifice to keep your power?" Amy challenged, the air suffocating with unresolved tensions. The question lingered, each heartbeat echoing against it, and then the room tipped into utter chaos again as screams erupted all around. The auction was just a backdrop now, the real battle brewing between lives and choices, loyalty and betrayal. And in that instant, the world outside the hall seemed to hang in the balance, waiting for one last twist to reveal the true cost of their dreams. The question hung thick in the air. What would they sacrifice to change the world? And who would be left behind in the ashes of their dreams? Then, like a thunderclap, it happened. The lights flickered violently. A scream pierced the silence, a raw, desperate sound that jolted everyone to attention. A figure burst through the crowd, shoving past stunned guests, a hooded silhouette moving with ferocity. Panic erupte, as people scrambled. Der faces twisted in disbelief. Marcus felt a su corazón pulsando fuertemente la cabeza. "Get out of my way!" The voice rang out, sharp and urgent. It was a man, but he was cloaked in mystery. The hood fell back, revealing a face that sent shock waves through the room. It was Jonathan, Marcus's estranged brother, the brother he hadn't seen in years, the brother whose secrets had ripped their family apart. ELON stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "What's going on? Security!" he shouted, but the crowd had already melted into chaos, confusion rooted deep. "Marcus!" Jonathan shouted, his voice breaking. "You have to listen! They're lying to you! They're all lying!" Heart jolting, Marcus staggered back, memories flooded, laughter, fights, and betrayal. "What are you doing here?" The question tumbled out. "They're planning something awful, brother. They're going to—" Jonathan's voice dropped into a hush. But the words didn't leave his lips. Instead, he pulled something out from under his jacket. A flash of metal glimmered under the lights. Gasps rippled through the crowd, a human wave of dread washing over everyone. "Stop!" Thomas Reed's voice boomed, but he was lost in the swell of fear. In that frantic moment, Marcus glanced at James. The millionaire's face was pale, shadows flickering across his brow, as if every lie he had ever told was unraveling before his eyes. He remembered being in that world. Money could make him untouchable, but now it felt like chains. "Jonathan, put that down!" Marcus shouted. "You're endangering everyone!" But his brother's eyes had gone wild, haunted. "I have to show you! I have to expose them!" With a sudden, unexpected move, Jonathan lunged toward the auction block. A flash of movement. Security descended like hawks, and the whole room gasped. Jonathan struggled against their hold, his fury rising, drowning out the screams. "They're going to kill me for this!" To everyone's shock, Jonathan raised the object high. A device. Blinking ominously, wires tangled like a web around its base. Pung! The atmosphere thickened. This is proof of everything. The experiments, the conspiracies, they're not selling salvation. They're selling control. Tension snapped like a wire under pressure. The rumble of murmurs turned into roars. Questions bounced off walls. What's he talking about? Is it true? Who are they? This was a new reality, like stepping through a door into madness. Who was in control? What did the auction really mean? The answers slipped through everyone's fingers, just out of reach. Suddenly, everything shifted. Fates were intertwined, relationships hung by a thread. The air hummed with uncertainty. Would the audience choose to listen, or pretend it was all a show? Elon stood frozen, the mastermind suddenly in the shadows of his own creation. But the device in Jonathan's hand, that silent promise of chaos, demanded a response. What would they do now? Who would rise, and who would fall? As the tension festered, fear and hope collided in one violent moment. The auction had transformed from a dream into a battleground, and nothing would ever be the same again. The tension festered, palpable, each heartbeat echoing the chaos around them. Jonathan, trapped in a sea of murmurs and gasps, held the device high. Desperation painted on his face. "This will expose everything!" he shouted again, voice shaking but resolute. Suddenly, Marcus felt a jolt deep in his core, an instinct screaming at him that something was off. The unease curled his stomach like sharp fingers. The crowd had split into murmurs, shifting from disbelief to curiosity. What's he talking about? Is this true? But it wasn't just the questions hanging in the air. It was a growing sense of dread that rose like smoke. Then came a deafening bang, an explosion that shattered the very atmosphere. The room convulsed, and darkness enveloped them once more as the emergency lights flickered to life, casting everything in erratic red. Jonathan lost his balance, the device slipping from his fingers, landing with a deafening thud on the polished floor. A sharp crack sent shards of light scattering through the chaos. Panic surged, people screamed, ducked, and pushed against one another. Shadows danced as they all searched for a way out. In the middle of it all, Marcus's mind raced. Where was Jonathan? "Get down!" James yelled, voice breaking through the delirium, but it was the sound of sirens that sent terror spiraling through them. And then, as the dust settled, a new figure emerged from the smoke. Tall, commanding, moving with a certainty that snatched everyone's attention. It was Sarah Blake, but not like they remembered. She stepped forward, face steely, a fierce light ablaze in her eyes. With a swift motion, she raised a device of her own, more sophisticated, gleaming ominously. "Enough of this charade!" Her voice thundered. "It's time for the truth." "Sarah, what are you doing?" Elon's question hung in the air, disbelief mingling with confusion. But the room was too gripped by dread to answer. Sarah shot a glance at Jonathan, whose eyes widened in horror. "You think you can expose the truth? You really don't understand what you're dealing with." The crowd held its breath, the rolling tension stinging the air. Everyone shifted, eyes darting between the two. And that's when it happened. The device in Sarah's hand lit up a blinding blue. "Wait!" Jonathan cried. But it was too late. A pulse shot out from Sarah, a wave of energy that surged through the room like a shockwave. Digital screens around the hall flickered, and a live feed erupted from the devices, revealing images, videos, names, Faces, every dirty secret was unveiled on the screens, and gasps rippled through the crowd as they witnessed years of corruption and criminal exploits, many of them hidden behind the guise of philanthropy. The evidence struck like a blow to the gut. Then it struck Marcus harder than anything. His own face flashed on the screen. His heart fell in an instant, exposed. They were labeling him as part of it all. Every backdoor deal, every shady encounter, displayed for all to see. It was as if layers of his life were ripped away, leaving only raw truth behind. No, that's not... Panic clawed at his throat. You can't. Jonathan stood frozen, mouth agape, betrayed by the very brother who had sought to save him. An overwhelming weight crushed Marcus, the force of accusations piling on top of each other like a broken dam. From the back of the room, someone shouted, "This is all a setup!" Whispers rose. Accusations flew. People turned on one another, pointing fingers as fear turned to chaos. When the lights flickered back to their original glow, shadows snapped back into place. Each face looked different now, emotions twisted and raw, a mix of shock and terror. Sarah exchanged a glance with Jonathan, their expressions shifting in silent understanding. Then the crowd surged, bodies rushing to the exits, fear spilling into the hall like a flood. But as panic surged through the space, Marcus felt his heart drop again. Not just at the betrayal unfolding, but at the understanding that none of this was simply coincidence. The auction had been a trap from the beginning. As the screams echoed, the world around him twisted into something unrecognizable, and the real question loomed heavy in the air. Who could he trust now, and what would they do next? As the chaos erupted, energy pulsated like a living pulse in the hall. Shadows danced, flickering against the walls, and every scream sent shivers down Marcus's spine. Thoughts jumbled together, his reality spinning out of control. He looked around, the fear draping over him, thick as a fog. Jonathan, wide-eyed, took a shaky step back. "No, please, you have to listen. They're using you!" Panic clawed at his throat. James felt the weight of every gaze, every accusation aimed at him like arrows. "They're all wrong!" he shouted desperately. I never meant for this to happen." But it was too late. The crowd roared with anger and betrayal, a wave of confusion crashing over them. In the chaos, Sarah took a bold step forward, her voice ringing fiercely. "This isn't just about you. It's about everyone you've hurt!" Suddenly, like a spark in the dark, a wrenching sound sliced through the cacophony. A scream, piercing and raw, echoed across the hall. Everyone froze. All eyes turned toward the source. A figure emerged from the shadows, collapsing to the ground in a heap. Another protester, a woman, clutching a bloodied hand to her chest. Gasps erupted, but Marcus couldn't tear his eyes away. The sight sent a chill through him, the realization sinking in. This was no game anymore. "Someone get help!" he shouted, terror constricting his throat. But as he moved toward her, something shifted. She looked up, her eyes wild. A spasm of recognition crossing her face. "Marcus! They're not telling you the whole truth," she whispered, her voice barely a whimper. "What do you mean?" Marcus was kneeling now, heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears over the chaos. "What do you know?" Before she could respond, a dull silence fell, punctuated by the sound of footsteps. A man strode into the chaos, tall and imposing, confidence radiating from him. He looked familiar, but in a way that sent ice through Marcus's veins. His heart raced. A piece of a puzzle he never wanted to acknowledge. It was the shadow from his past. Chris, a ghost he thought was buried long ago, slinking back from the grave. "Why are you here?" Marcus gasped, feelings swirling inside him, pulling him between the familiar and the unknown. "Because," Chris said calmly, his eyes locking onto Marcus with a piercing intensity, "it's time to reveal the real puppet master." The crowd gasped again, whispers tearing through them like wildfire. Chris stepped closer, an almost eerie calm enveloping him as he leaned down toward the fallen woman. "You think this is power?" he asked, voice deep and dripping with cynicism. "You are all pawns in a game far bigger than you've realized." The air became thick with tension. "What game?" Jonathan asked, dread settling in his gut. Chris smirked, traces of laughter edging at the corners of his lips. "One where your precious freedom is nothing more than a delusion. You're playing for a chance to escape reality, while I control the illusion." A cold shiver ran down Marcus's spine. "What are you saying?" He stammered, heart racing in confusion. But Chris didn't need to answer. In his stead, the woman gasped, choking back pain. "Don't you see? It's all linked. The auction, the technology, everything you trust, it's a trap." And then, before anyone could catch their breath, a blinding light erupted from Chris's hand, illuminating the entire room. Screams erupted again, a chaotic chorus. "Watch closely," he yelled, power igniting around him. When the light dimmed, everything changed. They weren't standing in a hall anymore. They were in a vast control room, screens flickering to life all around them, revealing secrets laid bare. Each face turned a ghostly pale, the truth laid out before them in stark colors. And as revelation set in, a single thought slipped through Marcus's mind like a knife. How many lives had they destroyed in their pursuit of power? The truth left him breathless, nightmarish visions circling, turning everything upside down. They were caught now in a web of lies. And before they could find their footing, a searing question loomed. Who was the true enemy, and who would pay the ultimate price? The room was now a whirlwind of chaos and confusion. The screens flickered, showing faces twisted in horror. Accusations thrown like daggers in the heat of betrayal. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest, each thud a reminder of the stakes. "Stop!" he shouted, voice breaking through the tumult. "We can't lose ourselves in this madness." He felt every eye on him, Jonathan's wide with panic, Sarah's fierce determination unwavering. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Chris's smug facade. The truth was unraveling before him, chaos that he had believed he controlled, now spiraling beyond his grasp. "You think this is over?" he sneered, the bravado slacking as danger crept closer. In the crowd, whispers churned into a storm, uncertainty and fear pooling, a vat of desperation. "Get out! It's a trap!" someone yelled, frantically tugging a friend toward the exit. Jonathan, panting, struggled against the pull of the moment. We need to fight back, he shouted. His words ignited something in Marcus. He took a step forward, grabbing the focus of the crowd. Listen, we're all here because we want change. We want truth. Every word wrapped around the tension, pushing against the tide. Hope flickered like a distant lighthouse beam. But fighting each other isn't the answer. Tension hung in the air, palpable and waiting. Faces turned toward him, mirrors of uncertainty, despair, but perhaps a glimmer of understanding, a move toward solidarity. Together we can expose the truth, Marcus continued, the words surging stronger now. We can reclaim what's ours. In that moment, something shifted. He saw pieces of the crowd hesitating, a collective breath being taken. Hearts almost daring to hope. But then, like thunder, Chris fired back. And what makes you think you're not complicit in this? The truth isn't pretty, and it will bring everyone to their knees. Maybe we have been, Sarah shouted, words fierce enough to cut through. But we're standing here now, together. The room vibrated with tension. Yet beyond the fear lay a simmering need for change. The desire surged beneath the chaos, feeding the fire. Suddenly, a shout erupted from the back, a voice both familiar and unwanted. Enough! It was Thomas, eyes blazing, birthed from the shadows of desperation. He moved forward, trying to reclaim some power amidst it all. Let's not forget where we started. Each one of us has the ability to rewrite this narrative. No more manipulation, Jonathan chimed in, summoning defiance. No more lying. Let's own our mistakes and build from them. A breath, shared, a flicker of connection lit between the crowd. Something electric coursing through, binding them tighter. One by one, hands began to rise, forming a wave, a show of unity. No longer a fragmented group of scared souls. Now a collective, a force. Marcus felt the warmth of that connection, a soft surge against the coldness threatening to swallow them all. Together, he said softly, his heart swelling with hope. We can confront what's next. No more secrets. As the crowd roared their agreement, the weight of the future hung in the air, uncertain yet bright with possibility. Somewhere in that chaos, amidst the pain, hope flickered defiantly. In that moment, everything changed. A new beginning, forged in the fire of truth, awaited them out there, down the long road ahead. And just like that, the screen blipped, blackness giving way to glimpses of light. They weren't just moving forward, they were stepping into a fight where every voice mattered. But the foundations were shaky. As Marcus glanced around at those he cared for, a haunting question lingered. Could they all rise from the ashes of their own making? Who among them would uncover the ultimate truth? And who would be left behind? You have to subscribe now! Don't wait even a second longer! Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm! Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this roller coaster of an ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see how this saga unfolds. Get involved. Show your support. This is the moment.